Today we're going to take a quick look at the Dragonbane Status Effect module for Foundry VTT versions 12 and 13. The first thing to note is there are two versions of this module. Given the changes in CSS and app v2 when they switched to version 13 of Foundry, it became pretty difficult to maintain a single module that supported both versions. So if you are running Foundry version 12, you're going to want to install the version 1 of this module, and if you're running version 13 of Foundry, you're going to want to install the version 2 of the Dragonbane Status Effects module. So this module replaces the core status effects in Foundry with Dragonbane-specific status effects. While this module works all by itself, there are a few recommended and optional integrations you might want to consider. It works in tandem with my other two modules, the Dragonbane Combat Assistant and the Token Action HUD for Dragonbane. The Combat Assistant will automatically apply certain status effects. So, for example, if you were to cast Longstrider on a targeted token, it would then apply the Longstrider status effect to that token. The Token Action HUD just makes it easier, along with this new status HUD you're going to see in a minute, of just managing conditions and status effects on tokens. Additionally, it does work with action tracking for the Year Zero engine combat. We'll see that in a minute in the status HUD. And I also like to use a module like Visual Active Effects or Defred's Effects panel, and that just gives a little bit more of some visual context to status effects. We're going to see later in the description editor where you can add detailed descriptions and game rules to status effects. And a module like Visual Active Effects allows you to then surface them right in the play area by providing the details in the status effect description. Let's take a quick look at the module settings. There's not too much here, but there are a few things worth pointing out. We'll cover the effects and description editors later in the video. The rest of these you're most likely going to leave checked. If you uncheck Replace Default Status Effects, it will combine the core Foundry status effects with the Dragonbane-specific status effects. That'll get a little messy and there will be a lot of duplication, so most likely you want to leave that checked. And you also most likely going to want to leave the enhanced token HUD layout on. Otherwise, you will get the standard flyout menu that you're used to seeing in core Foundry. So now with your settings in place, what does this look like? If you right-click on a token, you'll now notice that the Status Effects HUD is now using this new enhanced layout. These are the Dragonbane-specific status effects, and they're broken up into various categories. You can click on any of these status effects to immediately apply them, and you can clear all status effects by using this button down here in the lower right. One thing to note is that the attribute conditions, much like the Token Action HUD for Dragonbane, are all synced. So if you apply an attribute condition, you will also see it in the Token Action HUD, and you will also see it on the character sheet. If you are going to clear this condition, I would do it from one of those three locations and not something like Visual After Effects, because if I clear it from here, you'll notice it does not clear from any other location. But if I do remove it from, say, the Token Action HUD, it disappears from the character sheet, and it disappears from the Status Effects HUD. One last thing to point out is how it integrates with the Year Zero engine combat module. If you're using that to track the single action statuses, you can also see that in the Status Effects HUD. It'll show in the bottom left. And here you can click on this button to consume an action, and you can right-click it to clear all actions. In the case of a monster that has a ferocity greater than 1, you'll see it lists all available actions, and likewise they can be consumed and cleared. If you are using the Dragonbane Combat Assistant with the automatic action marking, this all integrates and all stays in sync. So up to this point, we're talking about a relatively simple status effects management module. But let's talk about how we can customize those effects a little bit. If you open up the module settings for the Dragonbane status effects, you'll notice you have the option to create custom effects and to add descriptions to those effects. So if you're using a module like Visual Active Effects and you want to add descriptions to your status effects, you can do that in the description editor. So let's take a look at that really quick. If you open up the editor, you're going to see a list of all the effects in the game and a description box. Here you can type a description, copy and paste a relevant portion of the rules, and it also supports dragging in things from the journal to create links to rules or characters or items or whatever you see fit. Once you have all of this set, I would recommend then exporting out to a JSON file. That way, if you have to set up a new Foundry instance or you're creating a new Dragonbane game, you can simply import your existing descriptions without having to recreate them. Likewise, you can go out to the GitHub page and I have a link to a JSON that I've created for my home game that already provides descriptions for all of these status effects, and that might help you get started. So a quick example of what this looks like, if I apply a couple of status effects to this orc, and I'm using a module like Visual Active Effects, you can now see that those descriptions I defined show when I hover over any of these. This is just a good way for rules reminders and to keep people from having to open journals constantly. Now let's look at how we modify the built-in effects that come with the module or create your own custom effects. If you go back into the module settings and you open up the custom effects editor, you can do a couple of things here. First, you can show all of the built-in effects that come with the module. And from here, if there's a particular effect you don't want in your game, you can just simply hide it. Let's also say you wanted to change the name of Chill to Chill Touch. You can just edit this and make that change. You can also change the category that the effect shows up in, the duration, or even the icon if you want. Here you can also create your own custom effects. So let's say I wanted to create like a lightning-based effect called Zapped, and I wanted it to show under spell effects, and it's an instantaneous spell, so no duration. I do have to set a icon for it, and then I can save the effect. You'll now notice that it does show up in this list of effects, and you can edit it or hide it at a later date. And once you're all done with this, you're going to click Save Effects, and it's going to reload the interface. If at any point in time you want to just set it back to the default built-in effects, you can just click this Reset All Effects button, and it'll do so. Much like the description editor, you can import and export your custom effects by using these icons up here in the upper right. If we now take a look at our status effect HUD, we will notice that one, concentration is now missing from general effects, and if we look at the spell effects for Chill, it is now called Chill Touch, and you'll now see our new Zapped spell effect is available. So those are the basics for the Dragonbane Status Effects module. Of course, these are my opinions about what effects should or shouldn't be in the game, so I'm always open to suggestions for tweaking that. But that's also why there's the custom effects editor, so you can make this module fit your game exactly how you need it. If you're using it and you like it, please let me know.